If you're a diehard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. For the first time this season, Cleveland Browns fans were finally able to leave Huntington Bank Field with something they hadn't felt in weeks: relief. And not just relief, but a small slice of joy, a rare smile that only victory can bring to a fan base that has lived with frustration and disappointment for too long. But let's be real here. This wasn't one of those smooth, easy, highlight-filled wins where everybody feels good from kickoff to the final whistle. No, this was the kind of game that makes you clench your teeth, yell at the television, and wonder if your team is trying to test your patience on purpose. By the third quarter, the tension inside the stadium was so thick you could almost feel it hanging in the air, and the boos raining down on Joe Flacco told the entire story of the day. This was not the kind of performance that inspires confidence, even when the scoreboard ends up in your favor. From the very first snap, it was clear that the Browns' offense was stuck in the mud. Drives stalled, passes missed their targets, and the rhythm you expect to see from a professional unit just never materialized. The crowd grew restless, and the frustration spilled over as Flacco struggled to move the chains. This is Cleveland, after all, a city that has lived and breathed football for decades, a city that knows what bad quarterback play looks like, and unfortunately, it looked like they were watching it again. When the fans let their voices be heard in the form of boos, it wasn't just about one pass or one drive. It was about years of heartbreak, years of waiting for stability under center, and years of being told to be patient when patience has already been worn thin. After the game, Flacco didn't sugarcoat it. He stood at the podium and admitted what everyone in that stadium already knew. It wasn't pretty today. It was tough. There were times when there were probably guys open down the field, and I didn't make it happen, he said. That's as honest as it gets, and you almost respect the veteran for not trying to spin the narrative into something it wasn't. He knew it was ugly, he knew he missed opportunities, and he knew the fans weren't going to let him off the hook. But then he shifted gears and reminded everyone of the other side of the coin. Part of your job as a quarterback is to get that done. But your job is also to win a football game and play your role, whatever that may be. And I think today, as tough as it was, we won a football game. That's classic Flacco, steady, calm, and willing to frame the chaos in the simplest terms possible. Ugly win or not, a win is still a win. But when you dive into the numbers, you understand why there's so much skepticism surrounding his future as the starter. Completing just 21 of 36 passes for 141 yards and tossing an interception is not exactly the stat line you hang on your refrigerator. Those are pedestrian numbers, and for a quarterback brought in to steady the ship, that kind of performance raises more questions than answers. He looked tentative at times, unwilling to push the ball downfield, and when he did, accuracy wasn't his friend. For a veteran who has been around the league for so long, you expect composure, you expect efficiency, and you expect at least a little spark. What we got instead was more of the same mediocrity that has plagued this franchise for far too long. The silver lining, of course, came from the other side of the ball. The Browns' defense, as it has done so many times before, refused to let the game slip away. They tightened up when it mattered, set the tone with physical play, and turned what could have been another disappointing chapter into a much-needed victory. It's not the first time this defense has carried the load, and it probably won't be the last. The question is, how long can this team rely on the defense to bail out an offense that can't seem to find its footing? Defense wins championships, sure, but in today's NFL, if your quarterback isn't pulling his weight, you're living on borrowed time. And that brings us to the elephant in the room: job security. Joe Flacco entered this season not as a guaranteed starter, but as the guy who edged out rookies Dillon Gabriel and SHEDEUR Sanders in training camp. He won the job, but winning it in August is very different from holding on to it in September, October, and beyond. Football is ruthless that way. Yesterday's starter can be tomorrow's backup, and it only takes a few shaky outings before the pressure to make a change becomes overwhelming. Right now, Flacco is feeling that pressure, and the calls for something new are growing louder with each uninspired performance. Among those waiting in the wings is Dillon Gabriel, the rookie selected in the third round. Gabriel may not have the experience, but what he does have is potential, upside, and most importantly, the backing of a fan base desperate for something to believe in. Rookies bring hope, and hope is a powerful thing, especially in Cleveland. The more Flacco struggles, the more that hope begins to look like a solution, even if it's not quite ready for prime time. That's just the reality of the NFL. Fans will take a young, raw talent over an aging veteran if the veteran isn't delivering. Right now, Flacco is giving the fan base every reason to wonder if it's time to turn the page. The upcoming schedule doesn't make things any easier. Trips to Detroit and Pittsburgh, followed by home games against Minnesota and Miami, present a brutal stretch that could define the Browns' season. These are not teams you can stumble against and hope to survive. These are teams that will punish mistakes, capitalize on sloppy play, and expose any weaknesses you have under center. If Flacco continues to play the way he has, the Browns could easily find themselves sliding back into the same old narrative of missed opportunities and wasted seasons. And if that happens, the pressure to make a change won't just come from the fans. It will come from inside the building. Coaches, front office members, and teammates all know what's at stake, and patience is a luxury no one can afford in a league where every game matters. But here's the thing about Joe Flacco. He's been in this position before. He knows what it's like to be doubted. He knows what it's like to have his job on the line, and he knows how quickly the NFL can turn on you. He's also shown, at times, that he can rise to the occasion. That's why this storyline is so compelling, because it's not just about one game or one set of stats. It's about whether a veteran quarterback with a Super Bowl ring can dig deep, silence the critics, and remind everyone why he's still here. Or whether this is the beginning of the end, the final chapter in a career that has had its highs and lows, but now feels like it's clinging to survival. For now, Browns fans are caught in that familiar space between cautious optimism and deep skepticism. They're happy to have a win, no doubt about it. Wins are precious in this league, and you never take them for granted. But they're also not blind to what they saw on the field. They know that if things don't improve, if Flacco doesn't step up, this little taste of victory could quickly turn sour. The boos from the third quarter weren't just about one bad game. They were about fear. Fear that this season will follow the same script as so many others. Fear that once again, the Browns will find a way to waste the talent they do have because the most important position in sports remains unsolved. And so, the story continues. Joe Flacco is still the starter, still the man under center, still the quarterback trying to hold on to a job that feels more fragile by the week. His own words summed it up best. It wasn't pretty. And if it doesn't get prettier soon, the Browns may have no choice but to turn the page and let someone else take the reins. Until then, every throw, every decision, and every game will be watched with scrutiny, because in Cleveland, patience has run out and the clock is ticking on Joe Flacco's time as the face of this offense. Enjoying the content so far? Smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. Rumors have a strange way of traveling in the sports world. They start out as whispers, sometimes from a locker room, sometimes from a practice field, and then suddenly they turn into the kind of story that makes fans raise their eyebrows and insiders start dialing numbers to confirm details. That's exactly what's happening right now with a piece of gossip that has been circling around the NFL circles and college football communities alike. Word on the street is that Cleveland Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski had some very sharp words about SHEDEUR Sanders, the rising quarterback and son of the legendary Deion Sanders. According to those close to the situation, Stefanski didn't just critique his play or toss out some constructive feedback. He flat out went nuclear, allegedly declaring, "He's not playing with me anymore." And just like that, we might be staring at one of the juiciest quarterback coach dramas of the season, even before it officially begins. To understand the weight of such a statement, you have to consider where both men stand in the football world. Stefanski, known for his calculated demeanor and calm, steady leadership in Cleveland, has built a reputation for being measured, for being the kind of coach who avoids the spotlight and always frames his comments carefully. He doesn't usually take the bait of emotional soundbites or let frustration boil over into public jabs. So for him to allegedly say something this strong about a young quarterback like SHEDEUR Sanders, it immediately feels like something significant has happened behind closed doors. Stefanski is not known for burning bridges lightly. If this line was truly spoken, it suggests the kind of clash that goes way beyond a single bad throw or a weak practice performance. It hints at a deeper tension, maybe rooted in personality, work ethic, or a difference in how they see the game unfolding. On the other side of this rumored feud stands SHEDEUR Sanders, a player whose name has been buzzing all over football discussions since he chose to follow his father from Jackson State to Colorado, and who has been making his case as one of the most intriguing prospects in the college game. SHEDEUR is talented, no doubt. His mechanics, poise, and leadership on the field have drawn praise, while his confidence and media presence have made him a recognizable figure outside the sport as well. But with that recognition comes scrutiny. SHEDEUR isn't just any quarterback. He's Deion's son, which means the spotlight burns brighter and the criticism cuts deeper. When STEFANSKI allegedly dropped that harsh line about refusing to work with him anymore, it immediately raised questions about whether the hype around SHEDEUR is colliding with the reality of fitting into a system, especially a system as demanding and detail-oriented as STEFANSKI's. The NFL is a place where egos and philosophies collide daily, but usually those conflicts remain in the shadows, handled with PR polish and carefully worded statements. This rumor, however, cracks the door open to something rawer. Was STEFANSKI frustrated with SHEDEUR's style of play? Maybe he saw too much improvisation, too much freelancing in a scheme that thrives on discipline and timing. Or maybe it wasn't about football at all. There's been plenty of chatter that SHEDEUR, with his growing brand and his larger-than-life persona, sometimes rubs old-school football minds the wrong way. Could STEFANSKI have felt that this young quarterback's priorities weren't aligned with the grind he demands? Or perhaps the issue was more personal. Maybe an exchange of words, maybe a moment of disrespect that went too far. Whatever the cause, the result of such a statement is explosive because it paints a picture of total rejection, of a coach washing his hands of a player before the partnership even really got started. Fans, of course, are eating this up. In Cleveland, the Browns faithful are wondering if this is the first sign of a quarterback carousel being spun again, a carousel they've endured far too many times in the past 2 decades. For a fan base that has just recently tasted stability with Deshaun Watson in the building, any talk of STEFANSKI throwing shade at a young QB immediately stirs up questions. Is this about a future draft pick? Was SHEDEUR even seriously on the Browns' radar? Or is this simply a clash of personalities that bubbled up during an informal conversation, a camp meeting, or maybe even at a workout? Whatever the truth is, the rumor alone carries enough weight to create uncertainty. And in a league where perception often becomes reality, one heated phrase can linger much longer than it should. From SHEDEUR's side, this kind of story can be both damaging and motivating. On the one hand, being labeled as uncoachable or as someone a respected NFL head coach doesn't want to deal with can raise red flags for teams who might otherwise be willing to take a chance on his immense talent. On the other hand, SHEDEUR has already shown a knack for responding to criticism with strong performances. He's no stranger to being doubted. Coming from an HBCU program into the mainstream spotlight at Colorado, he has carried himself with an air of confidence that suggests he thrives on proving people wrong. If STEFANSKI really did slam the door on working with him, SHEDEUR may use that as fuel to sharpen his focus and show the NFL world that he belongs, no matter what one coach says. And then there's the Deion Sanders factor, which can never be underestimated. Coach Prime has made it abundantly clear that he believes in his son's talent and leadership. If STEFANSKI's comment ever reaches Deion, one can only imagine the fireworks. Deion has never been shy about defending his players, let alone his own blood. The prospect of a public war of words between one of the NFL's more reserved coaches and one of football's most outspoken icons would be irresistible drama for media outlets everywhere. Deion could easily spin this into motivation for SHEDEUR, rallying not only his son, but also his entire program around the idea that the NFL establishment doesn't respect them yet. In fact, this kind of rumor might be exactly the kind of narrative fuel that the Sanders family thrives on, turning doubt into defiance and using the spotlight to their advantage. But stepping back from the personalities, this situation also sparks a broader debate about what NFL coaches want in their quarterbacks today. STEFANSKI's system, heavily reliant on precision, reads, and efficiency, may simply not align with the style SHEDEUR brings, a style that incorporates swagger, improvisation, and an ability to extend plays. If STEFANSKI really did say he won't play with SHEDEUR, maybe it's less about animosity and more about football philosophy. Coaches know what they want, and sometimes the fit just isn't there. The problem is, when that sentiment is expressed in such blunt and final terms, it takes on a life of its own. The words, "not with me," don't just close a door. They lock it and throw away the key. Of course, skeptics will say this is all noise, that Stefanski's supposed words are nothing more than exaggerated whispers blown out of proportion by gossip-hungry insiders. Maybe he was misquoted, maybe the line was taken out of context, or maybe it was never said at all. But that's the thing about rumors in the football world. They don't need to be true to stir the pot. They just need to be believable enough, juicy enough, to catch traction. And with Stefanski's reputation for calm colliding with SHEDEUR's reputation for flash, the rumor feels believable. Fans and media don't need proof, they just need the possibility. The clash of personalities writes the rest of the script all by itself. At the end of the day, whether Stefanski truly declared that SHEDEUR Sanders won't play with me, or whether it's just another campfire story spun by insiders, the conversation it has sparked is impossible to ignore. It reminds us how fragile relationships between coaches and quarterbacks can be, especially when you mix generational talent with generational ego. It underscores how quickly one comment, one rumor, can alter the narrative around a young player. And most importantly, it keeps everyone talking, because in football, perception matters almost as much as performance. Until someone on either side comes forward to clarify the truth, this will linger as one of those mysterious but captivating storylines, the kind that keeps fans glued to every update, waiting to see if the fire spreads or if it fizzles out. For now, the rumor alone is enough to create smoke, and where there's smoke in football, fans will always assume there's fire. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!